The forgotten promise, the ancient beacon crackled to life in Dr. Elena Vasquez's hands. Its surface worn smooth by 2 centuries of cosmic dust and solar winds. She had found it buried deep beneath the crystallized remains of what had once been a thriving human colony on Zariant 7. The planet was dead now, its atmosphere stripped away by solar flares decades ago. But somehow, this small device had survived. "Commander Steele, you need to hear this," Alina called across the archaeological site. Her voice carried the weight of discovery that every scientist dreams of but few ever experience. Commander Marcus Steele of the Terran Exploration Corps approached, his boots crunching on the brittle surface of the dead world. At 45, he had seen enough abandoned colonies to know the signs of tragedy. But something in Alina's voice suggested this was different. Alina activated the beacon's playback function. The holographic image of a woman in an old-style Federation uniform materialized. Above the device, her face was streaked with dirt and blood, but her eyes burned with determination. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the U.S. Destiny, Federation Registry 2847, date March 15th, 2387. If anyone receives this message, know that I have failed in my duty to protect the colonists of Zarian 7. The solar storms came without warning. Our shields failed. The evacuation ships," her voice cracked. "The evacuation ships didn't make it off the surface." Marcus felt his chest tighten. Every human knew the stories of the early colonial disasters, but seeing the face of someone who had lived through one of them was different. Captain Chen continued, "I am about to attempt to reach the emergency shelters in the northern continent. There are 347 souls still alive down there, including 68 children. The storms will pass in approximately 6 months, but our supplies won't last that long. I am leaving this beacon as a record and as a promise. If I don't survive, someone else will come. Humanity never abandons its own. We will return for them. This I swear on my honor as a captain and as a human being." The message ended. Alina stared at the empty space where the hologram had been. "Marcus, that was 200 years ago. The Federation wrote off this colony as a total loss. There were no survivors listed in any official records." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, studying the beacon in Elena's hands. Around them, the archaeological team continued their work, cataloging the remains of a human settlement that had been forgotten by the galaxy. But not, it seemed, by its captain. "Have you found any trace of the emergency shelters she mentioned?" Marcus asked. "We've detected some unusual readings from the northern continent. Energy signatures that don't match the surrounding geology. But Marcus, even if the shelters existed, nothing could have survived 2 centuries on this world. The atmosphere is gone. The temperature swings between 400 degrees in daylight and -200 at night." Marcus picked up the beacon, feeling its weight. It was heavier than it looked. "She made a promise, Alina, a human promise." 3 days later, Marcus stood before the Galactic Federation Council on Station Nexus Prime. The chamber was vast, designed to accommodate representatives from dozens of species. The Altarian delegates resembled large blue crystals that hummed when they spoke. The Zephyrian ambassador was a cloud of sentient gas contained within an environmental suit. At the center of it all sat the Council's presiding officer, Ambassador Kethler of the Meridian Collective, whose species looked remarkably like Earth's ancient depictions of angels, if angels had silver skin and eyes like liquid mercury. Commander Steele, Kethler's voice resonated through the chamber's translation systems. "We have reviewed your request for a rescue mission to Zarian 7. The Council's decision is unanimous. The colony was declared lost 2 centuries ago. Any promise made at that time is null and void due to the passage of time and changed circumstances. The Altarian delegate's crystal form pulsed with blue light as it spoke. The resources required for such a mission could be better utilized for current humanitarian crises. Logic dictates we focus on the living, not the long dead. Marcus had expected this response. The Federation was practical, efficient, and utterly lacking in what humans called sentiment. They had learned this the hard way over the past 2 centuries of membership. With respect, Ambassador Kethler, Marcus said, standing straighter. Humanity did not request Federation resources for this mission. We are informing the Council of our intention to honor Captain Chen's promise using our own ships and personnel. A murmur of surprise rippled through the chamber. The Zephyrian delegate's gaseous form swirled more rapidly. Commander, surely your species has evolved beyond such primitive notions of obligation. A promise made to the dead serves no practical purpose. Marcus smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. You're right, Ambassador. Our promise isn't practical. It serves no logical purpose. It won't bring us profit or strategic advantage, but it's what makes us human. He activated his personal display, showing the assembled delegates the archaeological findings from Zerion 7. We've located the emergency shelters Captain Chen mentioned. Our scans show they're not just intact, they're still powered. Something has been maintaining life support for 200 years. The chamber fell silent. Kethler leaned forward, his liquid metal eyes reflecting the display's light. You're suggesting there are survivors? I'm suggesting that Captain Sarah Chen was a very capable officer who kept her word even after death. Our deep core scanners have detected biosignatures from the northern continent. Faint, but definitely there. The Altarian delegate pulsed. Brighter. Impossible. Nothing organic could survive on that world for 2 centuries. Maybe nothing from your species could, Marcus replied. But humans are remarkably stubborn. We have a tendency to survive in places we shouldn't, for longer than we should, simply because we promised someone we would. Ambassador Kethler conferred, quietly with his advisors. The Meridian Collective had been humanity's strongest supporters during their integration into the Federation, but even they struggled to understand human emotional attachments to abstract concepts like honor and promise-keeping. Commander Steele, Kethler said finally, the Council will not prevent this mission, but we cannot endorse it either. You understand that if you're wrong, if there are no survivors, humanity will have expended significant resources for nothing. Marcus nodded. And if we're right, we'll have kept a promise that should have been kept 200 years ago. The mathematics seem fairly simple to me. 2 weeks later, the Terran rescue fleet departed from Earth's orbital shipyards. It was not an impressive sight by galactic standards, -12 ships. Mostly converted cargo vessels and outdated military craft. The Federation's newest member species typically commanded fleets of hundreds of vessels equipped with technology. That made human engineering look primitive. But what the human fleet lacked in sophistication, it made up for in determination. Every crew member was a volunteer. Every ship carried supplies for an extended mission into one of the galaxy's most dangerous regions. The Void Sector, where Zarian 7 was located, was notorious for its unpredictable gravitational anomalies and violent stellar phenomena. Marcus stood on the bridge of the UES Covenant, the fleet's flagship. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park, ran final system checks while Dr. Alina Vasquez coordinated with the archaeological team they were bringing to properly evacuate any artifacts they might find. All ships reporting ready. Sir, Park announced. Course laid in for the void sector. Estimated travel time, 18 days. Marcus settled into his command chair and thought about Captain Sarah Chen. According to the historical records, she had been 32 years old when she made her promise. Younger than Marcus was now, she had faced impossible odds with grace and determination, even knowing she might not survive to keep her word personally. "Take us out, Lieutenant Commander," Marcus ordered. "Let's go, keep a promise." The fleet engaged. Their faster-than-light drives and disappeared into the cosmic void, carrying with them humanity's most precious cargo, their word, given 2 centuries ago by a dying captain to colonists who had trusted her with their lives. Behind them, on station Nexus Prime, Ambassador Kethler watched the departure on his personal monitors. He had lived for over 300 years and had seen dozens of species rise and fall in galactic prominence. The humans were still young, still naive about the harsh realities of interstellar politics. But there was something about their stubborn refusal to abandon their principles that both fascinated and worried him. The Meridian Collective had learned long ago that survival required pragmatism. Promises were luxuries that few species could afford for long. Yet here were the humans, spending fortunes and risking lives to honor the word of someone who had been dead for 2 centuries. Kethler-esque liquid metal eyes reflected the stars beyond the station's viewport. Perhaps the humans would learn wisdom with time, or perhaps, he thought, was something that might have been hope. They would teach the galaxy something it had forgotten. In the depths of space, the human fleet pressed on toward a dead world and a promise that should have been forgotten, but never was. When promises echo through time, the surface of Zarian 7 looked exactly as hostile as the orbital scans had suggested. Commander Marcus Steele watched through the Covenant's viewports as the dead planet rotated slowly beneath them, its surface, scarred by centuries of solar radiation and meteor impacts. The northern continent, where Captain Chen's emergency shelters were supposed to be located, appeared as a maze of crystallized rock formations and deep canyons. Biosignature readings are stronger now that we're in orbit, Dr. Alina Vasquez reported from her science station. Definitely organic, definitely human. I'm reading approximately 200 life signs, clustered in 3 separate locations. Marcus felt his heart rate increase. 200 survivors after 2 centuries. It seemed impossible, but the scanners didn't lie. Any signs of recent surface activity? Negative on surface movement, but I'm detecting energy discharges from the shelter locations. Someone or something is definitely maintaining power down there. Lieutenant Commander Park frowned at her tactical display. "Sir, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are picking up ships entering the system. Configuration matches known pirate vessels." Marcus cursed under his breath. The Void Sector was notorious for harboring criminals and raiders who preyed on anyone foolish enough to venture into the region's dangerous space. How many ships? 6 vessels, all armed. They're moving to intercept our position. Alina looked up from her scanners. "Marcus, why would pirates care about an archaeological mission to a dead world?" Before Marcus could answer, the communication system crackled to life. A harsh voice filled the bridge, speaking accented, galactic standard. "Human vessels, this is Captain Vex of the Crimson Nebula. You are trespassing in claimed territory. Surrender your ships and cargo, and we might let you live." Marcus activated the reply channel. Captain Vex, this is Commander Steele of the Terran Exploration Corps. We are conducting a humanitarian rescue mission. We have no valuable cargo. Laughter echoed through the speakers. Rescue mission on Zarian 7. Commander, my sources tell me you've discovered something very interesting down there. 200 humans who have been living in isolation for 2 centuries. Do you have any idea what collectors throughout the galaxy would pay for specimens that unique? Marcus felt cold rage building in his chest. The pirates weren't just after the rescue fleet's equipment. They wanted to sell the survivors as curiosities to wealthy collectors. It was exactly the kind of practical, profit-driven thinking that the Federation sometimes exhibited, but taken to its logical extreme. Over my dead body, Marcus said quietly. That can be arranged, Vex replied. You have 10 minutes to surrender before we open fire. Marcus closed the channel and turned to his crew. All hands, battle stations. Signal the fleet, we're going to fight. Park looked concerned. Sir, we're outgunned and outmaneuvered. Those are military-grade vessels. Maybe, Marcus said, studying the tactical display. But they're also criminals who are used to dealing with easy targets. They've never fought humans defending something they care about. The next few minutes were a whirlwind of activity as the human fleet prepared for combat. The ships were not designed as warships, but their crews were creative and determined. Cargo vessels, extended improvised weapons. Scientific equipment was repurposed as defensive systems. Most importantly, every human in the fleet understood exactly what they were fighting for. The pirate attack began with a coordinated assault on the Covenant. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes lit up the space around the human flagship, but Marcus's ship was already moving, using the planet's gravity well to slingshot around Zarian 7's equator. Return fire, Marcus ordered. Target their engines, not their weapons. I want them disabled, not destroyed. It was a tactical decision that revealed everything about the difference between human and pirate thinking. The criminals expected their enemies to fight with the same ruthless efficiency they employed. Instead, the humans fought to disable and capture, even when facing opponents who showed no such restraint. The converted cargo ship U.S. Determination, commanded by Captain Lisa Rodriguez, rammed directly into the side of a pirate vessel, using reinforced cargo bays as improvised weapons. The impact disabled both ships' engines, but Rodriguez's crew was prepared for boarding action while the pirates were not. Meanwhile, Dr. Vasquez worked frantically to maintain communication with the surface shelters. I'm getting responses to our signals, she reported over the sound of weapons fire. Someone down there is trying to communicate. Marcus split his attention between the space battle and the rescue operation. What are they saying? It's Captain Chen's voice, or someone using her words. Destiny to any Federation vessel. Colonists are secure and ready for evacuation. We kept our promise too. The words sent chills down Marcus's spine. Somehow, the survivors had maintained not just their lives, but their hope, waiting 2 centuries. For a rescue they had never stopped believing would come. The space battle raged for another hour before the pirates realized they were facing an enemy that simply would not give up. Human ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting. Crews that should have surrendered kept coming. When Captain Vex's own vessel was disabled by a coordinated attack from 3 human ships working in perfect coordination. The remaining pirates fled the system. With orbital space secure, Marcus finally had the chance to focus on the rescue operation. The landing shuttles descended through Zarian 7's thin atmosphere. guided by energy beacons that had been broadcasting for 200 years. What they found in the emergency shelters defied every expectation. The survivors were not the desperate, half-wild refugees Marcus had imagined. They were a functioning community that had not just survived, but thrived in their underground habitat, led by a woman who introduced herself as Captain Maria Santos, great-great-granddaughter of one of the original colonists. They had maintained their technology, their culture, and most importantly, their faith that rescue would eventually come. "We never doubted," Captain Santos told Marcus as they walked through the shelter's surprisingly well-maintained corridors. "Every generation, we told the story of Captain Chen's promise. We knew that humanity never abandons its own." The shelters themselves were marvels of engineering and determination. Using geothermal energy and recycled materials, the colonists had built a sustainable underground civilization. They had maintained libraries, schools, even small manufacturing facilities. Children born in the depths of Zerion 7 had grown up knowing they were temporary residents, waiting for the day when humans would return to take them home. "How did you maintain hope for so long?" Alina asked as she documented the shelter's systems. An elderly man named David Chen, descendant of the captain who had made the original promise, smiled. "Every night we light a beacon. Every day we listen for signals from space. Every year we celebrate Promise Day, when we remember that our people never break their word. Hope isn't something you maintain, Doctor. Hope is something you choose, again and again, until it becomes who you are." The evacuation took 3 days, 214 survivors, ranging from elderly colonists to children who had never seen natural sunlight. Each one of them carried themselves with a dignity that spoke of unwavering faith in humanity's basic decency. As the last shuttle lifted off from Zerion 7's surface, Marcus stood on the Covenant's bridge, watching the dead planet recede behind them. In 18 days, they would reach Federation space, carrying with them living proof that some promises transcend time, distance, and even death. But the real impact of the mission wouldn't be felt until they reached Station Nexus Prime. Ambassador Kethler was waiting in the docking bay when the human fleet arrived. Word of their successful rescue had spread throughout the Federation, faster than light itself. Representatives from dozens of species had come to see the survivors of Zerion 7, the humans who had waited 2 centuries for a promise to be kept. As Captain Maria Santos stepped off the shuttle, she was met by a crowd of beings who represented the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. They stared at her with expressions that ranged from curiosity to amazement to something that might have been envy. Kethler approached Marcus, his liquid metal eyes reflecting emotions that his species rarely displayed. "Commander, the Council has asked me to convey their admiration for your mission's success. Few species would have attempted what you accomplished." Marcus looked at the survivors, being welcomed by their families, humans who had traveled from across the Federation to greet relatives they had never known existed. "With respect, Ambassador, I think you underestimate the power of keeping your word. Maybe the other species just haven't been given the right reason to try." Over the following months, something unexpected happened throughout the Federation. Species that had abandoned their own colonies and outposts centuries ago began launching their own rescue missions. The Altarians sent expeditions to recover lost crystal matrices that they had written off as irretrievable. The Zephyrians organized efforts to re-establish contact with gaseous beings who had been isolated for decades. The human concept of promise-keeping spread like a virus through galactic civilization. carried by the example of a dead captain's oath and the stubborn determination of humans who refused to let time diminish their word. But perhaps the most significant change was in how other species viewed humanity itself. No longer were humans seen as a young, naive race that would eventually learn the harsh realities of galactic politics. Instead, they became known as the species you could trust. Absolutely, the ones who would keep their promises no matter the cost. Marcus Steele, promoted to Admiral after the Zarian 7 mission, often found himself thinking about Captain Sarah Chen. She had died 2 centuries ago, probably never knowing whether her promise would be kept. But her words had echoed through time, inspiring not just the rescue of her colonists, but a fundamental shift in how an entire galaxy thought about honor, duty, and the power of never giving up. In the end, the most human thing of all was not their stubborn refusal to break their promises. It was their ability to inspire others to remember what promises meant in the first place. The galaxy would never be the same.